She signed the marriage contract to protect her dying mother, but when John's first wife suddenly appeared, alive and desperate, Justina realized she was trapped between a husband who might be a murderer and a woman begging her to run. Rain fell hard against the hospital window, blurring the city lights into smudges of gold and white. Justina Jenkins sat at her mother's bedside, clutching her thin hand. The machines beeped softly, steady but weak, and every sound felt like a countdown. Her mother stirred, eyes half closed. "Don't look at me like that, sweetheart," she whispered. "You'll cry yourself sick." Justina forced a smile, though her throat burned. "I'm not crying. You'll be fine. The doctors said the treatment will help." But both of them knew the truth. The treatment was too expensive. They'd already sold their house, their car, everything. The hospital bills kept piling up, and no matter how many late-night shifts Justina took at the diner, it wasn't enough. Her mother squeezed her hand weakly. "Promise me you'll live your life, not waste it on my sickness." Justina shook her head. "Don't talk like that. I'll find a way." When she said it, she almost believed it. That night, as Justina left the hospital, she found a man waiting under the flickering streetlight. His presence made the air feel heavier, like the shadows bent around him. He was tall, sharply dressed in a dark suit that looked almost too perfect for the rain. His hair was black, neatly combed back, and his eyes, pale gray, watched her with unsettling calm. "Miss Jenkins," he said, his voice smooth but cold. Justina froze. "Do I know you?" He stepped closer, the rain sliding off his umbrella without touching him. "No. But I know you. I know about your mother's condition. I know the hospital will soon refuse further treatment without payment." Her heart raced. "Who are you?" "My name is John Cooper." His smile was thin, controlled, like it was something he rarely allowed. "And I can save your mother's life." Justina's mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" He held out a sleek black folder. "Inside is a contract. If you agree to its terms, every bill, every medicine, every surgery your mother needs will be paid in full. Immediately." She didn't move. "And what do you want in return?" His eyes held hers, unblinking. "Marriage. To me." The word hit her like a slap. She almost laughed, except nothing in his face showed humor. "You're joking." "I don't joke," John replied. "Think carefully before you refuse. Your mother's time is running out. By tomorrow, the hospital will ask for another payment. You cannot make it. I can." Justina felt her knees weaken. "Why me? You don't even know me." A flicker passed through his eyes, something unreadable. "I know enough. You're quiet, loyal, desperate enough to agree. You'll suit me." Her stomach churned. "Suit you for what? A wife isn't a business arrangement." "For me, it is," he said simply. "Marriage is an agreement, like any other. You need money. I need a wife. We both get what we want." Justina stared at the folder, rain dripping off her hair. "This is insane." "And yet," John said softly, leaning closer, "if you walk away now, your mother dies." The words cut her like glass. She wanted to scream at him, call him a monster, but instead she found herself whispering, "Show me the contract." In a dimly lit cafe across the street, John spread the black folder across the table. The papers were dense with legal language, filled with clauses Justina barely understood. "You will be my wife in name and law," John explained calmly, pointing to the pages. "You will live in my house. You will attend public events as necessary. You will not question my business, my associates, or my past." Justina swallowed hard. "And if I don't agree?" His grey eyes darkened. "Your mother's care will end. I am not a man who offers twice." She looked down at the contract. Some of the clauses chilled her. She could not leave the marriage without his permission. All her assets, present and future, would transfer to him. Even in the event of her death, her identity would remain bound to him legally. It felt wrong, suffocating, but then she thought of her mother's hand in hers, frail and trembling. She thought of the beeping machine, the slow countdown. Her voice cracked. Why would you even want this? Why me? For the first time, John's expression softened, not kindness, but something darker. Because you remind me of someone. And because I want control over my life, and my wife. The last word hung heavy between them. With shaking hands, Justina picked up the pen. She stared at the blank line waiting for her name. She felt like she was signing her soul away. When the ink touched paper, John's smile returned. This time, it reached his eyes, but not in warmth. It was satisfaction. Good, he said softly, closing the folder. Now you're mine. The wedding was small, rushed, and oddly lifeless. No music, no flowers, no friends. Just a quiet ceremony in a candlelit hall with two witnesses Justina didn't recognize and John standing at her side like a statue carved from stone. When the vows were spoken, John's voice was steady, controlled. Justina's voice trembled, every word tasting of ashes. At the end, when the officiant declared them husband and wife, John pressed his lips lightly against hers. It wasn't a kiss, it was a seal, a mark, a claim. Afterward, he led her to the black car waiting outside. The drive to his mansion was long and silent, the city lights fading into rolling countryside. The mansion itself rose like a shadow on the hill, massive, old, its windows glowing faintly in the storm. The iron gates creaked open, and the car rolled down the long, winding driveway. From now on, this is your home, John said as the car stopped. Justina stepped out, staring up at the towering building. It looked less like a home and more like a prison. Inside, the air smelled faintly of cedar and smoke. Chandeliers glittered above, their light reflecting off polished marble floors. Servants moved quietly, their eyes lowered whenever John passed. Everyone seemed afraid of him. John showed her to her room, a lavish suite with velvet curtains, a grand bed, and an ornate mirror. This will be yours, he said. We will share appearances in public, but our private lives remain separate. Justina frowned. Separate. John's gaze was unreadable. Do not mistake this marriage for love. You belong here because of a contract. Nothing more. Her stomach knotted. And if I break the contract? A faint smile curved his lips. You won't. That night, as the storm raged outside, Justina lay awake in the huge bed, staring at the ceiling. She heard footsteps in the hall, slow and deliberate. Then she heard a door creak open down the corridor. Voices murmured. One was John's. The other, silence, like he was speaking to no one. Justina crept to her door, pressing her ear against the wood. His voice was low, almost tender. Anna, he whispered. Anna, why did you leave me? Her blood ran cold. She stumbled back, heart pounding. Anna, his first wife. The one who was supposed to be dead. Was he dreaming aloud? Speaking to her ghost? Or was Anna still alive? The storm outside roared louder, and Justina curled up in the bed, clutching the sheets tight. For the first time, she realized something she hadn't allowed herself to think before. She might have made a deal not with a man, but with a monster. The mansion was too quiet. Days passed, and Justina Jenkins began to notice how the silence seemed alive, as though the walls themselves were listening. Servants moved like shadows, their heads bowed whenever John appeared, their voices barely above whispers when he left. John himself was gone most of the day, always leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. He never said where he went, never explained what he did. Whenever Justina asked, he'd reply in that calm, clipped tone of his. Business. Nothing more. Loneliness pressed in on her. She wandered the endless halls, studying the portraits of stern men and pale women who seemed to watch her as she passed. The mansion was a labyrinth, with doors locked tight, staircases leading to unused wings, and rooms frozen in time as if no one had touched them for decades. It was on the fourth day that she discovered the desk. She'd been exploring the second-floor library, a vast room lined with shelves that reached the ceiling. Dust floated in the sunbeams cutting through the curtains. While scanning the shelves, she noticed a mahogany desk tucked in the corner. Most of the drawers were locked, but one slid open easily. Inside lay a bundle of yellowed papers tied with a faded ribbon. Letters. She unfolded the first one, her heart thudding. The handwriting was elegant, looping, unmistakably feminine. "Dearest John," it began. "I know you will never forgive me if you learn the truth. But the truth is already eating me alive. You are not the man I once believed you to be. And if anyone ever discovers what you've done, neither of us will be safe." Justina's breath caught. She skimmed through the other letters, all signed with the same name. Anna Cooper, John's first wife. One letter in particular chilled her blood. "If any woman ever stands where I once stood, tell her to run. Marriage to you is not a gift, John, it's a prison. And one day, it will become her coffin." Justina's hands trembled as she stuffed the letters back into the drawer. Her chest tightened until it was hard to breathe. A sudden creak on the floorboards behind her made her spin around. John stood in the doorway. "What are you doing in here?" His voice was calm, but his eyes, grey and cold, pinned her in place. I was just exploring," she stammered. "It's a library, isn't it?" His gaze flicked to the desk, and for a terrifying moment she thought he'd seen the letters. But instead, he simply walked inside, closing the door behind him. "This room is not for wandering," he said quietly. "Nor are the others in the West Wing. I thought I made that clear." Her pulse thundered in her ears. "I didn't know." John stepped closer. His presence was suffocating, his height towering over her. "Some doors in this house are meant to stay closed, Justina. If you open them, you may not like what you find." The warning clung to her like a cold hand on her throat. That night, she barely slept. Every creak of the mansion felt louder. She dreamed of the letters, of Anna's handwriting, of whispers echoing in the hall. When she finally woke near dawn, the mirror across her room made her heart stop. Words were scrawled across the glass in what looked like lipstick, jagged and frantic. "Leave while you can." Justina staggered back, her hand over her mouth. The mirror was clean when she'd gone to sleep. No one had entered her room, or had they? Her hands shook as she touched the writing. The letters smeared, proving it was real. She stumbled to the door, pulling it open. The hallway stretched out silent and empty, every door closed. The mansion swallowed her scream. The next evening, John returned earlier than usual. Justina sat waiting in the grand dining room, pushing food around her plate. The warning on the mirror burned in her mind, but she hadn't dared mention it. When John entered, she studied him. He was calm as always, his suit perfect, his expression controlled. But she saw something in his eyes, something hollow. She set her fork down. "Who was Anna?" His hand froze on the wine glass. Slowly, he lifted his gaze. "Why do you ask?" "Because," Justina's voice shook, but she forced herself to go on. "Because I found her letters." The silence that followed was suffocating. John set the glass down carefully. "You went where you weren't supposed to go. You can't expect me to live here and never ask questions," she said, her words rushing out. "She warned me. She said marriage to you is a prison. She said." "Stop." His voice was sharp now, his control slipping. Justina's chest heaved. "Is she dead? Or is she still alive?" John leaned back, his grey eyes glittering in the candlelight. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, in a low voice, he answered, "She was my wife. She betrayed me." Justina blinked. "Betrayed you how?" "She worked with people who wanted to destroy me," he said, his tone tight, clipped. "She gave them information. She tried to ruin everything I built." "And what happened to her?" His jaw tightened. "She disappeared. I don't know where. Perhaps she's dead. Perhaps she's not. Either way, she is gone. Justina's heart pounded. And what if she isn't gone? His eyes locked on hers, cold and merciless. Then she will wish she were. A shiver ran through her. She searched his face for softness, for humanity, but saw only steel. And yet, in that same moment, something strange flickered in his expression. A crack in the mask. For the first time, she saw not only anger, but grief. You loved her, she whispered. His jaw flexed. Love, he said bitterly, is a weakness. It blinds you. It makes you trust people who will stab you in the back. I don't make that mistake twice. Her throat tightened. Then why marry me? Because you are not Anna, he said, almost to himself. And yet, he leaned forward, studying her face with unnerving intensity. Sometimes, when I look at you, I see her. The words chilled her more than the warning on the mirror. John rose from his chair, walking slowly around the table until he stood beside her. He bent close, his breath brushing her ear. Do not dig into things that don't concern you, Justina. This house has ghosts, but I am far more dangerous than any of them. She held her breath, afraid to move. Then he straightened, smoothing his sleeve as though nothing had happened. Good night, Mrs. Cooper. He left the dining room, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Justina sat frozen in her chair, her pulse racing. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just living with secrets. She was living with a man who might have murdered his wife, and who now looked at her like a ghost come back to life. The West Wing was always locked. From the day Justina moved into John Cooper's mansion, she had been told it was off-limits. Some doors, John had warned, are not meant to be opened. But the human heart is stubborn. The more forbidden something is, the more it pulls at you. Late one night, unable to sleep, Justina roamed the halls. Moonlight spilled through tall windows, painting silver patterns on the marble floor. The house was silent except for the faint ticking of a grandfather clock downstairs. Her footsteps drew her closer to the locked corridor. The West Wing loomed ahead, its double doors tall and ancient, carved with roses and vines that seemed to twist in the shadows. She hesitated, hearing John's words echo in her head. If you open them, you may not like what you find. Her fingers brushed the handle. To her shock, it turned. The door creaked open. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Someone had unlocked it. The corridor beyond was darker, colder. The air smelled stale, like a room sealed for years. She stepped inside, her hand trailing along the dusty wall. The first room she entered was a bedroom. It was beautiful, elegant, but untouched. The bed was neatly made with silk sheets, the curtains drawn tightly, the furniture gleaming though no one had dusted it. It felt preserved, like a shrine. On the dresser sat a silver hairbrush. Long, golden strands of hair clung to its teeth. Anna's hair. Justina's chest tightened. She turned slowly, her eyes falling on the wardrobe in the corner. Something tugged her forward. She pulled the door open. Inside hung dresses, delicate and expensive, waiting as if for their owner to return. And then she saw it, a jewelry box. She opened it. Inside lay photographs. Anna Cooper smiled from the images, her face radiant, her beauty delicate. In one picture, Anna stood beside John, his arm around her waist. He was younger, but his eyes looked the same, cold, piercing. But in the corner of another photo, something caught Justina's breath, a dark stain. She lifted the photograph closer. The corner was smeared with dried brown. Blood. Her stomach lurched. She shoved the photos back into the box, panic clawing at her throat. On the desk near the window, she noticed papers spread out, documents, contracts, financial records. She scanned them, her eyes widening. They weren't just business dealings. They were cover-ups. Accidents that weren't accidents. Payments to silence people. Names of men and women crossed out. One paper chilled her more than all the rest. It was a statement of inheritance, drawn up years ago. It named Anna as John's sole heir, but it had been voided. A faint noise made her freeze. Footsteps. Slow. Approaching the door. She panicked, darting behind the wardrobe. The footsteps entered the room. Through the gap in the wardrobe door, she saw him. John. He stood in the doorway, his figure outlined by moonlight. His expression was unreadable as he looked around the room. For a terrifying moment, she thought he would find her. But instead, he stepped inside and went to the desk. He picked up a photograph of Anna, his hand lingering on it. His lips moved. "Why did you do it, Anna?" he whispered. "Why did you make me what I am?" Justina held her breath, her whole body trembling. John set the photograph down carefully, as though it were fragile. Then, in a voice so low it was almost a growl, he added, "She can never find out the truth." He turned and left, his footsteps echoing down the hall. Justina collapsed against the wardrobe, her heart pounding so loudly she feared it would give her away. He meant her. Justina. She was sure of it now. Whatever had happened to Anna, John was at the center of it. And if she wasn't careful, she would share the same fate. The next morning, Justina sat in her room staring at the mirror. She had scrubbed the lipstick warning away days ago, but she could still see it in her mind. Leave while you can. Her hands shook as she held her teacup. Every creak of the mansion, every flicker of shadow seemed heavier now. Her phone buzzed. A message. She almost dropped the cup. Unknown number. Meet me outside the garden gate. It's about John. Her blood ran cold. Who would dare contact her here? After hours of nervous pacing, she slipped out through the garden at dusk. The air smelled of roses, sharp and sweet. At the far gate, a man waited. He was tall, his coat pulled tight, his face lean and serious. He looked around constantly, as if expecting someone to follow. "Mrs. Cooper," he asked in a low voice. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "My name is Jonathan Reed. I'm a journalist." Her stomach dropped. "Why are you here?" "Because you're in danger," he said quickly. "And because I've been following John Cooper for years." Her heart hammered. "You shouldn't be here. If he finds out." Jonathan leaned closer. "Then we don't have much time. Listen to me. Anna isn't dead." The words hit Justina like ice water. "What?" "I've spoken to people who saw her," Jonathan whispered. "She's alive, hiding. But John wants everyone to believe she's gone. He destroyed her family. He ruined anyone who asked questions. If he brought you here, it's because you're her replacement." Justina's knees weakened. "You're lying." "Do I look like I'm lying?" His eyes burned with urgency. "He's dangerous. And now you're trapped with him." Her throat closed. "If Anna's alive, why hasn't she come back?" Jonathan shook his head. "She can't. Not until she has proof strong enough to bring him down. But she's close. And you," he grabbed her wrist. "You could be the key. You're inside his walls. You can find what she needs." Justina pulled away, her mind spinning. "I can't. If he finds out, he'll." Jonathan's gaze softened. "You want the truth, don't you? About what happened to her? About who your husband really is?" Before she could answer, a sound froze them both. Footsteps on gravel. Justina's breath caught. Jonathan shoved a piece of paper into her hand. "Call me. But be careful. He's watching you closer than you think." He slipped into the shadows, vanishing just as the footsteps drew nearer. A servant appeared, bowing. "Mrs. Cooper, the master requests your presence." Her blood chilled. Inside, she found John waiting in the sitting room, a glass of whiskey in hand. His expression was calm, but his eyes, sharp, calculating, fixed on her as though he already knew. "You've been outside," he said quietly. Her mouth went dry. "I needed air." He sipped his drink, watching her over the rim. Air can be dangerous at night. Her hands clenched at her sides. What do you mean? John smiled faintly, though his eyes stayed cold. Just that some things wander in the dark. Things that should be avoided. He set the glass down and leaned forward. Stay close to the house, Justina. Don't go wandering. Don't talk to strangers. And above all, his voice dropped, silken and dangerous. Don't ever betray me. She swallowed hard, nodding. That night, when she returned to her room, she found something waiting on her bed. A piece of paper, stained with blood. On it, scrawled in jagged handwriting, were the words, "You'll end up like her." Justina's scream echoed through the mansion, but no one came. The mansion felt colder after the note. Justina could not sleep. She sat up through the night, staring at the bloody warning that had been left on her bed. Every creak of the old house set her nerves on edge. Who had placed the note? Was it John, to frighten her into obedience? A servant, secretly trying to warn her? Or was it Anna herself? By morning, her eyes burned from exhaustion. At breakfast, John sat across from her, reading the newspaper with the same calm indifference he always showed. He barely looked at her. She could not stop staring at his hands, steady, controlled, the hands of a man who could crush someone's throat and then calmly sip his coffee as though nothing happened. She forced herself to speak. "John." He turned a page, not looking up. "Yes, Justina." Her throat tightened. What really happened to Anna? His eyes flicked up, grey and sharp. A pause stretched between them like a wire pulled tight. "You're still curious about her," he said flatly. "She was your wife. People whisper about her. I deserve to know the truth." John folded the newspaper carefully and set it down. He leaned back, studying her with that unnerving stillness of his. "She betrayed me." Justina's chest ached. "You've said that before. But how? Why?" "She thought she could destroy me." His voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "She worked with people who wanted to ruin everything I built. She fed them lies. She stole from me. She tried to run." Justina leaned forward. Did you kill her?" Silence. For a moment, she thought he might laugh. But he didn't. He just stared, his jaw tightening. "Finally," he said in a low voice, "if she is dead, it wasn't by my hand. But if she is alive," his eyes darkened, "then she will wish she wasn't." Justina shivered. She didn't dare push further. Instead, she forced herself to finish her meal, though every bite turned to ash in her mouth. That afternoon, when John left for his business, Justina slipped away to the garden gate. Her heart pounded as she pulled the folded paper from her pocket, Jonathan Reed's number. Her hands trembled as she dialed. He answered almost immediately. "Justina." Her breath hitched. "Yes. I need to know the truth. All of it. Then meet me. Tonight." They met in the shadow of a run-down chapel at the edge of town. Jonathan looked tired, but his eyes burned with urgency. "I wasn't sure you'd call," he said. Justina crossed her arms, though the night air chilled her. "You said Anna's alive." Jonathan nodded. "I have proof. Come with me." He led her inside the chapel. The candles flickered against cracked walls. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Justina froze. The woman was pale, her hair golden but tangled, her face beautiful yet hollowed by fear and weariness. "Justina," Jonathan whispered, "this is Anna." Justina's knees went weak. "No, that's impossible." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "It's true. I'm alive." Justina's heart thundered. "But John said you betrayed him, that you tried to destroy him." Anna let out a bitter laugh, choked with pain. "That's what he does. He twists the truth until you don't know what's real anymore. He ruined my family, Justina. My parents, my brother, all of them are dead because of him. He controls everything. Everyone. And when I tried to escape, he hunted me. I barely got away. Justina's voice broke. Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you tell the world? Anna stepped closer, gripping her hands. Because no one listens. He has power in every corner of this city, the police, the courts, even the newspapers. If I show my face, I'll disappear again. Permanently. But you, her grip tightened. You're inside. You can help me expose him. Justina shook her head, her breath uneven. He watches me. He controls everything I do. If I even breathe wrong, he'll know. Anna's eyes glistened. Then you know what I mean when I say you're in a prison. I was where you are now. I tried to fight. And he nearly buried me alive. Don't make the mistake I did. Justina's chest burned. She thought of her mother, safe only because John paid for her care. She thought of the bloody note. Of the contract she'd signed without reading it fully. She whispered, if I help you, he'll kill us both. Anna cupped her face, her voice trembling. If you don't, he'll kill you anyway. Slowly. Piece by piece. The words sank into her bones. Justina didn't know what to believe. John's calm menace or Anna's desperate warnings. Both felt like truths. Both felt like lies. She pulled away, tears stinging her eyes. I need time. Jonathan nodded. But not too much. He's tightening the net around you. You feel it, don't you? Justina could only nod. That night, when she returned to the mansion, John was waiting in the hall. He smiled faintly, but his eyes gleamed. You're late. Her heart dropped. I went for a walk. John stepped closer, brushing his fingers along her cheek. Be careful, Justina. The world outside isn't safe. And I'd hate to see you lost. His hand lingered a moment too long, cold and possessive. When he turned away, she finally let herself breathe. But her blood froze when she saw the faint smear of red on his cuff. Lipstick. The same color that had written on her mirror. Days passed in a blur of fear. Justina moved like a shadow through the mansion, always watched, always listened to. She could feel it, the eyes. The servants, the cameras hidden in corners, and John himself, who seemed to know her every move before she made it. One evening, as she sat in her room pretending to read, she noticed a faint click behind the wall. She froze, then looked closer. A camera lens, barely visible, tucked into the corner near the ceiling. Her stomach dropped. He was watching her. Always. Later that night, unable to bear it, she returned to the contract. The black folder lay hidden in her drawer. She pulled it out, spreading the papers on her desk. Her hands shook as she forced herself to read every word this time. The clauses made her skin crawl. The wife shall have no right to separate property. The wife shall not leave the marital home without explicit permission. In the event of death, the wife's identity, assets, and estate remain bound to John Cooper in perpetuity. Her breath caught. Even in death. It wasn't a marriage contract. It was ownership. Her entire life, her name, her very existence, belonged to him. And worse, it meant even if she died, she would never escape him. Her hands clutched her hair. What have I done? A sound behind her made her spin. John stood in the doorway, watching her. Her heart stopped. You've been reading, he said softly, stepping into the room. His tone was calm, but his eyes glittered with quiet rage. She scrambled to gather the papers. I just... John crossed the room in 2 strides, slamming his hand down on the folder. His face was inches from hers. Did you think I wouldn't notice? He whispered. Her chest heaved. Why? Why these rules? Why this prison? He leaned closer, his breath cold against her ear. Because I learned long ago that love is fragile. Trust breaks. But contracts, his lips curved in a cold smile. Contracts last forever. Tears filled her eyes. This isn't love. It's control. Exactly, he murmured. And now you belong to me. In life. In death. In every way that matters. His fingers brushed her cheek, but the touch felt like a shackle. Her heart screamed to run, but her body froze. When he finally left, the contract still under his arm, she collapsed against the desk, sobbing silently. Through her tears, she noticed something new, a slip of paper that had fallen from the folder. It wasn't part of the contract. It was a photograph. Anna. Alive. Taken only weeks ago. Justina clutched the photo, her chest heaving. John knew. He knew Anna was alive. And he was waiting for her to come back. The air in the mansion had grown heavier, as though every wall whispered warnings Justina couldn't quite hear. After discovering the photograph of Anna alive, slipped inside the contract, she could no longer deny it. John knew. He had always known. Her mind spun. Had he planted that photograph for her to find? Was he waiting for her to betray herself? Every moment near him felt like balancing on a blade. That night, Jonathan called her again. Justina, he whispered urgently through the phone. Anna's ready to meet. She has proof. But she needs you. Tonight. Her heart pounded. If John finds out. He already suspects you, Jonathan cut in. The only way to survive is to move first. Meet us. Please. Tears pricked her eyes. She thought of her mother, safe in the hospital under John's money, under John's control. Every choice felt like a trap. But she couldn't live like this. She whispered, "Where?" The meeting was arranged in an abandoned farmhouse outside the city. The night smelled of damp earth and smoke. Jonathan stood near the door, his face drawn with tension. Inside, Anna paced restlessly. She looked stronger than before, but her eyes carried the weight of years in hiding. When Justina stepped into the room, Anna froze. For a moment, they stared at each other, two women bound by the same man. Anna broke first, her voice trembling. "He knows you found out, doesn't he?" Justina's throat tightened. He left the photo in my room. I think he wanted me to see it." Anna's hands balled into fists. "Then he's baiting us. He's drawing me out through you." Jonathan stepped forward. "That's why we have to move quickly. I've gathered documents, recordings, everything. If we release them, it will be enough to finally bring him down." Justina's voice cracked. "And what if it isn't? What if he silences all of us first?" Anna grabbed her hands, desperate. "Don't you see? That's exactly what he wants you to think. Fear keeps us in chains. But together, we can break them." Justina looked into Anna's eyes. For the first time, she saw not just fear, but fire. She wanted to believe. She almost did. Until the farmhouse door creaked open. John Cooper stepped inside. The air froze. He was dressed in black, his grey eyes gleaming like steel. His smile was calm, terrifying in its quietness. "Ladies," he said smoothly. "And Jonathan. What a touching little gathering." Anna's face drained of color. "You." John stepped further in, his presence filling the room. "Did you really think I wouldn't know? That I don't watch every step you take, Justina? That I don't control every whisper in this city?" Jonathan moved in front of the women, his jaw tight. "It's over, Cooper. We have the proof. Your empire's going to fall." John chuckled softly, shaking his head. "You think papers and voices matter against me? No. What matters is loyalty. What matters is choice." His gaze shifted to Justina, sharp as a knife. "And you, my darling wife, have a choice to make. Them or me." Justina's breath caught. "Why are you doing this?" "Because," John said, stepping closer, "I need you to understand. Love is weakness. Contracts, loyalty, that's strength. She betrayed me once. His eyes flicked to Anna. I won't allow it again. You belong to me, Justina. And now, I'll know for sure if you accept it or fight it. Anna grabbed Justina's hand. Don't listen to him. He'll never stop until he owns every part of you. Help me end this. John's voice slid over hers, low and commanding. Help her, and your mother dies by morning. Choose me, and she lives. You live. The room spun around Justina. Her heart screamed with terror. Anna's fingers clutched hers desperately, but John's eyes pierced her, promising ruin if she defied him. Choose, John whispered. Now. The silence in the farmhouse stretched until it cracked. Justina's lips trembled. Her body swayed between Anna's grasp and John's presence. Then she spoke, her voice breaking. I can't lose my mother. Anna's eyes widened. Justina, no. But it was too late. Justina let go of her hand and stepped toward John. Anna's face twisted with shock and betrayal. You can't, after everything I told you, after everything he's done. John's hand slid around Justina's waist, pulling her close, triumphant. His smile was cruel and soft at once. You always underestimate me, Anna, he murmured. And now you see. She chose me. As they always do. Jonathan lunged forward, fury blazing in his eyes. You monster! John moved faster than Justina thought possible. A flick of his hand, a flash of steel, and Jonathan collapsed to the floor, clutching his side as blood spread across his shirt. Anna screamed, dropping beside him. No! Jonathan! John barely spared them a glance. His grey eyes stayed on Justina, proud and possessive. Do you see now? This is what happens to those who betray me. But you, my darling wife, you're different. Tears streamed down Justina's cheeks. She had chosen him. She had betrayed Anna. And yet, as John pressed his lips to her hair, she felt something dark unfurl inside her. A terrible relief. Her mother was safe. She was safe. And John. John was power. Maybe it was better to stand beside the monster than be crushed beneath him. John dragged Anna and Jonathan into the west wing, locking the heavy doors behind them. The screams that followed rattled the mansion's bones, echoing through the night. Justina pressed her hands over her ears, but the sound seeped in anyway, Anna's voice breaking, Jonathan's gasps, John's calm commands. And then silence. Thick, suffocating silence. At dawn, the mansion smelled of smoke. Justina stood at the window, watching flames lick the edges of the west wing. The fire devoured everything, the room where Anna had lived, the secret she tried to reveal, the proof Jonathan had gathered. Beside her, John slid his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close as if the fire were nothing more than a warm hearth. It's better this way, he whispered. The past belongs to ashes. We move forward now. Together. Justina's eyes stung as she watched the flames. She whispered, and Anna. John kissed her temple, his voice soft as silk. She won't trouble us anymore. The words twisted into her chest like knives. And yet she didn't pull away. That night, lying in the vast bed beside him, Justina stared at the ceiling. The mansion was silent again. But inside her, the silence was worse than screams. She had chosen him. She had walked away from Anna, from Jonathan, from truth. And as John's hand rested heavy on hers, she realized something chilling. She wasn't afraid anymore. She belonged to him now, not because of the contract, not because of her mother, but because a part of her had given in. And in the mirror across the room, her reflection stared back at her, pale and hollow. For the first time, she understood what Anna's letters had meant. The contract wasn't paper. It wasn't ink. It was chains in the soul. And she would never escape. If that twist left you shaken, you're going to want more. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next story is even darker, and you won't want to miss what happens when love, lies, and betrayal collide.